Folks, Pat Robertson, Christian broadcaster and presidential candidate back in 1988, died at the age of 93 in his Virginia Beach home. Here to discuss his life and legacy of that influential evangelist, Christian Broadcasting Network anchor and Deputy Bureau Chief John Jessup. John, tell us about the legacy. Obviously, he was in the limelight back in the 80s, but he was part of a movement that really activated Christians politically, wasn't he?
And Bob, that is right. And first off, let me just say, on behalf of the entire Robertson family, they would love to be here today and talk with both you, Bob, and Katrina. But of course, they're mourning. To your point, you're right. Pat Robertson's legacy is vast. It is extensive. He's not just a Christian broadcaster. He's not just an educator. He's not just a philanthropist. What you said, he did bring many into just political involvement. And that's because as American citizens, we do have a voice. And, oftentimes Christians felt like their voices weren't heard. So Pat was someone who spoke boldly. He had strong convictions that were sometimes at odds with culture, but they were based on what he believed was God's word. I think more than anything, even though, yes, we talked about him being a presidential candidate, you talked about him being a broadcaster, I think the one thing that Pat would acknowledge as far as his role is that he was a servant of God.
Hey, John, what is something that people might not know about Pat Robertson that you, with a special insight, could share?
I would say, first of all, most people know the Pat Robertson, who is the public-facing Pat of the 700 Club, which he hosted for 60 years, which is impressive in its own right. I've had the privilege of working with several of the Robertson family members. I've worked with some of his grandchildren. I've had the opportunity to work with Gordon, and I've interacted with Pat. I was at a couple of his granddaughters' weddings, and I had a chance to talk to him on his 93rd birthday just a couple of months ago, and was able to share with him my gratitude for his years of faithful service and obedience to God's calling. I think what most people would be surprised to learn is that he was such a humble man. When I told him how much I appreciated his faithfulness and his obedience, he just thanked me, and he told me that I did a good job. He kind of turned it on me. But I think when someone is in the limelight like that, someone who holds a top leadership position, oftentimes they can be seen as difficult or challenging. And I think Pat did have high expectations. The core values of CBN are innovation, excellence, and integrity. And he modeled that, but he was also someone who was quite humble.
All right, John Jessup, thank you so much for joining us today.